Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
On the 77 WABC app.
Let's see how far we can take this.
77 WABC. WABC New York and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays. It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the News with Noam on 77 WABC.
Are we back? Look at that. If you've ever wondered what it sounded like if you played the entire bed of music that is underneath me when I begin the show, you got that just a couple seconds ago. How cool was that? And just to give you a behind the scenes, so we were having some issues with getting the show on the air, which happens once in a while. We turn into like an ER, an emergency room. Everybody's running around. It's like, it's like they're putting they're saying, give him air, make sure he has oxygen, and they're pumping his chest. And that's what it looked like in here. It was pretty cool because, you know why it's cool? Because I just got to sit here and do nothing while they tried to figure it out. But they did, because they're so good at what they do. So I will start. It is Monday, March 31st. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Going to see some showers early. Isolated thunderstorms this afternoon. The high going to be 68. Tonight and overnight, cloudy, low 42. And then Tuesday, tomorrow, sunshine, high 55. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it's 43 and partly cloudy in Suffern, Upper and Rockland County. 46 and partly cloudy in Cresco over in New Jersey. And it's 46 and foggy right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Tears for a family killed in a crazy Brooklyn car crash. The Working Families Party can't decide who to endorse for mayor. The self-serve gas battle heats up in New Jersey again. A teenager accused of starting a Long Island brush fryer. And protesters take Tesla to task up in Westchester. All right, let's get into it at 5:04. Let's start with that tragedy in Brooklyn over the weekend. Saturday afternoon crash when a mother and her 2 young children were killed while crossing the street in this horrific car accident. Happened about 1 o'clock in the afternoon along Ocean Parkway and Graves, and a Toyota and Audi collided, leading to the Audi striking 4 people. Here was NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch at the scene.
I will call it like it is. This was a horrific tragedy, a family and a neighborhood devastated in an instant. The NYPD sends its condolences to the family of the victims. May their memories be a blessing.
The 35-year-old mother, along with her 2 daughters, ages 8 and 6, they were killed. The mother's 4-year-old son, he's in critical condition this morning. The driver who caused all this, cops say, Miriam Yarimi, 32 years old, charged with multiple counts of manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide. She didn't even have a license that had been revoked, charged with reckless driving. Here's Mayor Adams.
4 family members walking across the street and be the victim of a crash of that level of violence. Number one, the person should not have been on the road. It was a suspended license. We're going to ensure that this is investigated to the full extent. My heart goes out to the family.
Neighbors say Natasha Sada and her 3 children were the ones crossing the street. They had no idea the Audi was speeding down Ocean Parkway, headed their way. Natasha, just 34 years old. Those children, again, 5 and 8 that were killed. The 4-year-old son, we're being told, still in the hospital this morning. Witnesses say the crash was so severe that the Audi actually went airborne as it rolled over.
She was moral and ethical and raised her children.
So she's talking about the family of those killed here. They had the funeral yesterday in custom with the Orthodox Jewish community in Brooklyn.
She was moral and ethical and raised her children in the most elite manner, according to our Torah. The children were delicious angels, well brought up and well raised.
Yeah, so friends say Natasha left her home, East 2nd Street, while her husband and youngest son stayed back. I mean, it's just a god-awful story. So now the husband and young son were back at the house while the mother and her 3 kids were hit by this car.
With 93 violations, with $10,000 of unpaid fines, with a suspended license.
Yeah, this woman, Miriam, should have never been behind the wheel of a car. Tons of tickets, had her license revoked, and here she was speeding again, causing this crash that killed most of this family from Brooklyn.
Beautiful people, kind people, charitable people. Very unfortunate.
Yeah, again, yesterday was the funeral. WABC News Time 5:08. Some good news and, well, some bad news for drivers impacted by those sinkholes on Route 80 in Morris County, New Jersey.
There's a tentative reopening date for the interstate. Bad news, it's 5 weeks away, and it's only a partial reopen. NJDOT says 2 westbound lanes may be able to reopen in 5 weeks if all goes well with the repairs. 2 eastbound lanes could then reopen 2 weeks later. That's 7 weeks from now. That's if, of course, no more sinkholes pop up. 3 sinkholes have sprung on the spot since December. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New Jersey.
We go from New Jersey overseas. The takes the latest on this earthquake that took place in Myanmar. Of course, this was on Friday while we were on the air. 7.7 magnitude quake. There is a civil war going on in Myanmar, and actually they called for a ceasefire over the weekend so people could come in and help all those who maybe still be stuck in the rubble, those who are injured. The death toll just in Myanmar alone from that 7.7 is about almost 2,000 now. So they let those rescuers, first responders in Bangkok, which you probably saw that building that came tumbling down that was under construction. 83 are dead. 10 of those, they think, were killed when that building came down. Construction workers. Over the weekend in Myanmar, they let heavy equipment into the area to move tons of rubble. Hope fading, though, for those who are still missing. And we don't have, again, a legit count because, again, there's a civil war going on in Myanmar, and so it's just a disaster there in general. As the full destruction of the earthquake becomes clear, you have a whole bunch of U.S. charities flying over there to see if they can help out. And now that Myanmar has this ceasefire in place, they're letting those American groups in. Carrie Murray is president of Shelter Box USA, which they expect to help tens of thousands of people who need emergency shelter and emergency items because they no longer have homes.
Densely populated cities, very close to the epicenter. You have high-rise buildings, the potential that they're maybe not built to standards.
Yeah, these organizations are amazing and how quickly they can move. So they have these survival kits. They flew them in over the weekend. They're going to begin handing them out. Maybe they already have.
And so we just saw this. We saw this in Turkey, southwest Turkey, and those earthquakes there in northern Syria, where you had tens of thousands, over 50,000 deaths there, but hundreds of thousands of people in need.
Now, that group is out of California. You can imagine California. They're watching this saying, we're waiting for the big one to happen here. Geology expert sharing his insight. Dr. Pat Abbott is a professor at San Diego State University. He studies these kinds of things, and he says, California has been preparing for an earthquake of a 7.7 magnitude for years.
We have for quite a number of years now had what we call a planning scenario for a magnitude 7.8 earthquake movement on the San Andreas Fault. And by that I mean like from the Salton Sea on up through San Bernardino. And what just has happened here in Myanmar is almost exactly the same as the earthquake movement we expect here out east on the San Andreas Fault.
Yeah, people don't want to hear that. Myanmar's earthquake has been followed by a bunch of aftershocks, some of them as big as 6.4 magnitude. 5:12, let's bring it back home out to Minnesota. Cops releasing some details after a plane crashed into a Minnesota home over the weekend. I should point out it was a small plane. Brooklyn Park Fire Chief Sean Conway speaking after the crash.
There are no survivors from the aircraft which struck the home. There were no occupant fatalities. everybody was exited the home safely.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. This happened middle of the day. It was like 12 o'clock when this plane ran into this home, and there were people in the home, but they were able to get out.
And again, thank you to, we've received a ton of texts and support from other leaders across the state, and then, of course, our Public Safety Commission, Governor Walz, thank you so much for supporting us and providing resources to our city as well.
Yes, the FAA says the plane actually originated from Des Moines. Aboard that plane was a guy named Terry Dolan, who is the chairman of a bank, and he was flying alone. They don't know what took place in the moments before he crashed. That's why the FAA and TSB will be on the scene, but he was the only one killed, the 63-year-old who was the vice chair and chief executive of this bank. 5:13, Atlantic journalist Jeffrey Goldberg taking to the news shows over the weekend, refuting claims of National Security Advisor Mike Waltz in the aftermath of that leak of military plans in Yemen that the two didn't know each other. He said Waltz had never met Goldberg and they never had spoken, but Goldberg says the only reason his number was in Waltz's phone is because the two had spoken before.
He's telling everyone that he's never met me or spoken to me. That's simply not true. I understand why he's doing it, but this has become a somewhat farcical situation.
Now, Goldberg did not go into detail on these news shows how he knows Waltz, only saying his number was in Waltz's phone, and the National Security Advisor likely accidentally added him to that Signal group chat we all know about now.
There's no subterfuge here. My number was in his phone. He mistakenly added me to the group chat. There we go.
Senator James Lackford, he's a Republican, calling for the Pentagon Inspector General now to investigate this recent leak. The Oklahoma Republican also taking to the news shows over the weekend. He is a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and he says, I want this thing fully investigated.
One is, obviously, how did a reporter get into this thread in the conversation? And the second part of the conversation is when individuals from the administration are not sitting at their desk in a classified setting on a classified computer, how do they communicate to each other?
Now, he says this is not high crimes, and there shouldn't be high crimes, against anybody who is involved in this. In fact, he says everybody should keep their job, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He said accidents are happened, but he said you then have to investigate how they took place.
Again, there's two questions. One is, how did a reporter get in this conversation? And the second one is, how do members of the administration talk to each other when they're on the road? I don't see this as an issue of leadership, nor I've heard some people calling for his resignation. I think that's way overkill.
Right. He just wants to make sure these things, and especially conversations about war plans, are secure. 5:15. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Monday. Good morning, Justin Allen.
Happy Monday. Good morning to you, Noam Liddon. We start here on the Diamond Men. A loud weekend that was for the New York Yankees out in the Bronx. The final from yesterday. Yankees 12, Brewers 3. It's a 3-game sweep of Milwaukee at home for the Yanks to open the season. Marcus Stroman, he got the no decision yesterday. Started the game 4 2/3 innings of work, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, and 3 Ks. And then here we go with more dingers. Aaron Judge, 2-run home run. Jazz Chisholm, he went deep twice. A 2-run shot in the third, a 3-run shot in the seventh. Ben Rice added a solo shot in the second, following the 20 spot the Bombers put up on the Brewers on Saturday. The 36 runs New York pushed across over the weekend set a franchise record through the first 3 games of a season. They'll take their 3-0 record into a 3-game set against visiting Arizona Diamondbacks, set to get underway tomorrow night in the Bronx. As for the Mets, after dropping 2 of 3 against the Astros in Houston to open their season, and following an off day yesterday, they'll open a 3-game set tonight in Miami against the Marlins. First pitch is scheduled for 6:40 p.m. with David Peterson slated to start for New York. Elite 8 action in the NCAA men's basketball tournament. 1 seed Houston beats 2 seed Tennessee 69-50. In the Midwest region, Houston will move on to play a fellow 1 seed Duke in the Final Four following Duke's 85-65 win over 2 seed Alabama on Saturday, and 1 seed Auburn beats 2 seed Michigan State 70-64. They'll move on to play Florida in the Final Four following Florida's 84-79 win over 3 seed Texas Tech on Saturday. Final Four action will pick up live from San Antonio come Saturday night, so you get about a week off here. On the NBA hardwood at the Garden, finally, OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges each scored 28 points, and the Knicks dominated the second half for a 110-93 victory over the Portland Trailblazers, still holding on to third place in the Eastern Conference. The Knicks will next face the Philadelphia 76ers at home come tomorrow night. That is your Sports Know, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com.
WABC News Time 519. President Trump says he's very angry with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Trump said Sunday if a peace deal in Ukraine can't be reached and he believes it's Russia's fault, he'll place more tariffs on Russian oil. In a Sunday morning phone call with NBC News, Trump cited Putin's recent remarks suggesting Ukrainian President Zelensky was not a legitimate leader. Trump also commented on his efforts to reach a nuclear deal with Iran, saying if they don't make a deal, there will be bombing. I'm Mark Mayfield.
April 2nd, of course, is Tariff Day. President Trump says he'll be expanding some of those tariffs now to include pharmaceuticals.
We have to bring pharmaceuticals, drugs and pharmaceuticals back into our country.
Yeah, he was speaking aboard Air Force One there. He says the U.S. can't rely on other countries for our medications, and we do for a lot of them, by the way. Meanwhile, the president says he couldn't care less if automakers raise their prices due to the new tariffs.
This comes after he announced last week that he'd be implementing a 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles. In an interview with NBC News Saturday, Trump said he didn't care if automakers raise prices and, in fact, hopes they do because he thinks people will start buying American-made cars. He also said the imposed tariffs will be permanent. I'm Brian Shook.
520, Vice President J.D. Vance says those stationed in Greenland are vital to alerting the U.S. if an attack is on the way. He was in Greenland over the weekend. He says European allies are not keeping up with other nations like China, and as a result, Greenland, he says, is less secure today.
We're thrilled to be here because the mission that you guys do is so important for the United States. It's important for our national security.
The Vice President says there needs to be more investments to strengthen the Danish territory and added Denmark hasn't done enough to preserve security.
We know that Russia and China and other nations are taking an extraordinary interest in Arctic passageways and Arctic naval routes.
And he says that's why the U.S., the White House, President Trump are interested in Greenland.
And America is leading in the Arctic because we know that if America doesn't, other nations will fill the gap where we fall behind.
We go from Greenland to Belize. 3 American women who were found in a Belize hotel room last month. Now we know that they died from carbon monoxide poisoning.
Family members released a joint statement citing the U.S. Embassy saying it was likely caused by a faulty instant water heater. Officials in Belize say the 3 women, ages 23 through 26, were found dead February 22nd. No illicit drugs were found in their system. The women were originally from Morocco but lived outside Boston in Revere, Massachusetts. I'm Jim Forbes.
Let's bring it back home, go down to Baltimore. Maryland Governor Wes Moore blaming the operators of a cargo ship for that deadly collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. It was a year ago. He's speaking after the 1-year anniversary, and he says the ship set off with serious mechanical issues, should have never left port.
That was a crisis that happened solely because of the reckless behavior and the reckless operators of the Dolly, who allowed a ship to leave knowing that that ship had faulty errors.
6 maintenance workers on the bridge, they were killed when the ship struck, and it caused it to collapse last March. The governor cited a report from the NTSB that reported dozens of bridges across the U.S. have load-bearing issues, but he emphasized the operators of the ship are really the ones to blame for the tragedy.
The reason that we had to mourn those families is because of these reckless operators of the Dolly and nothing else.
522, maybe you saw these over the weekend in your neighborhood, protests taking place at hundreds of Tesla locations across the nation, organizers calling it a global day of action as part of a campaign dubbed Tesla Takedown. Now, these are people mostly on the left who are upset with Elon Musk for joining the White House.
I definitely have wanted to flip off Tesla drivers when I see them, but, you know, I want to do a peaceful demonstration, and it's not just about Elon Musk and Tesla. Democracy.
They're annoyingly loud, right? The goal is to stop Elon Musk and the Department of Governmental Efficiency. The group is calling for peaceful demonstrations. They were, for the most part, didn't see any vandalism or attacks from this group anyway, as there have been over the last couple weeks. 523, President Trump over the weekend talking about the conversation he had with upstate New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik about pulling her nomination for U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. We were told, of course, that it was better that she stay in Congress because the numbers between Republicans and Democrats are so tight.
Will you mind staying in Congress? Because we don't want to take any chances. And it's as simple as that. It's basic politics.
So the president told Stefanik that her staying in the House would mean that Republicans have one seat they know they have for sure. They didn't want to put that seat, upstate New York, up for grabs.
A very highly rated person. You know, she was a real leader. And she will be again. I spoke with Mike Johnson. They're going to put her in a high leadership position.
Yeah, I think you'll probably see that soon. 524. A Wisconsin judge yesterday allowing Elon Musk to give money to people who vote in a certain way.
The Billionaires Political Action Committee is paying $100 to Wisconsin voters who sign a petition opposing Democratic Judge Susan Crawford. Musk also announced he gave 2 voters $1 million each to be spokespeople for his agenda. The state's attorney general filed a lawsuit against the action as Wisconsin law bars giving voters anything of value to influence their vote. A judge, however, decided to allow Musk's payouts. I'm Jim Forbes.
Yeah, so we saw him handing out checks over the weekend.
Just remember, like this
is Elon Musk, by the way.
The importance of the election on Tuesday is gigantic. It could decide the future of the House of Representatives. It could decide then the future of America and the future of the world. So it's absolutely critical that you need to just drag friends and family to vote on Tuesday.
Yes, so the billionaire gave out 2 $1 million checks to 2 people who showed up at that town hall you heard him at in Green Bay yesterday. That must have been nice. 525, let's go down to Florida in what is described as a gruesome scene. The body of a man who went missing last week found in a gator-infested pond along the Treasure Coast in Florida. St. Lucie County Sheriff says items belonging to the 67-year-old who had gone missing, Vincent Grasso, were found on the bank of the pond, and then divers discovered the body about 45 feet from the shoreline.
Even though this is an ongoing investigation, as you saw, we found the divers from the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office found that the body was tethered with a string and a cinder block was affixed to the end of the string.
Yikes, what a way to go. Ring camera footage shows Grasso leaving his house in Savannah Lakes after midnight. His wife says she was unaware that he was even missing. And then, of course, they had this sad end to the search for this missing man. When they saw everything along the shoreline, they knew it probably was not going to end well.
We have recovered a body from the pond. The gentleman's name is Vincent Grasso. He is 67 years of age.
It's one of the dangers, of course, in living in those communities in Florida. 526, maybe you over the weekend were thinking, oh my God, I lost so much money in the stock market last week. Stocks free falling on Wall Street on Friday. Uncertainty remains about what the markets will do today.
This is coming at a time where we're already worried about inflation getting worse down the pike because why? Tariffs making everything more expensive.
That's correspondent Brian Chung. It's after a new inflation report came in hotter on Friday than expected for last month. So the Dow down more than 700 points at the end of the day Friday, which was freaking out a lot of people.
This is the preferred gauge for the nation's central bank, the Federal Reserve. They watch this specific number. It's called core inflation. It strips out those more volatile prices like for food and for energy.
Yeah, so make sure you're here when the markets open at 9:30 this morning. We'll see together whether it's going to be another gruesome day.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the News with Noam on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Monday, March 31st. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Going to have some showers early today, then isolated thunderstorms this afternoon. It's going to be warm. The high going to be 68. And then tonight and overnight, the temp falls, and it'll be cloudy, low 42. And then Tuesday, more sort of, mid-April type spring amazing weather, sunshine, high 55. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it's 43 and partly cloudy in Suffern up in Rockland County, 46 and partly cloudy in Cresco over in New Jersey, and it's 46 and foggy right outside our Midtown window. WABC News Time 5:38. Less than 3 months until primary day for mayor here in New York City. Some of the candidates out seeking endorsements over the weekend. So you have one of the lines you can run on in New York City, besides Democrat and Republican and Libertarian, is the Working Families Party, which is a line that Democrats always want to get because it's another place they can collect votes. So usually the Working Families Party picks one candidate to endorse, but this year they can't make up their mind. So I don't know that this works that well for the candidates they endorse, but they chose a slate of 4 candidates to endorse for the primary, which makes zero sense to me. But it's Brad Lander, Adrian Adams, Zohran Mamdani, and Zellner Myrie, all picking up the endorsement of the Working Families Party over the weekend. Here's the head of that party, Jasmine Gripper.
Keep Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo off your ballots. These are the candidates who are ready to move us forward. We do not have to replace one scandal-ridden politician with another.
Yeah, so what's beyond me is how they don't pick Zohran Mamdani. I mean, he is their built candidate. He was a candidate built for the Working Families Party, but he was one of the candidates they chose. Here he was over the weekend.
This is a city that has been built by working people, and yet it is pushing those same people out of the city that they call home.
Now, these 4 candidates, of course, trying to set themselves aside from Mayor Adams and former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Here's one of the other candidates endorsed by the Working Families Party, City Council Speaker Adrian Adams.
We can't go back to another mayor who brings Trump-like scandal with them and does not prioritize New Yorkers.
The other candidates, of course, out over the weekend, Andrew Cuomo blasting President Trump for dividing Americans. I imagine he's a little upset he didn't get that Working Families Party. Maybe he will when the primary's over.
You want to be called the Progressive Party? I'll tell you what. You have to make progress.
Late Sunday afternoon, Cuomo added another endorsement, though, to his growing list, this one from the Queens Democratic Party and its chairman, Congressman Gregory Meeks. And if you didn't hear it earlier this morning, my good friend James Flippin doing a most excellent interview with a Republican. I mean, the guy who's going to win the Republican nod come June, our own Curtis Sliwa. So for sure, download that podcast from Jumpin' James Flippin, the Flip Flock, and you can hear that interview that he did with Curtis Sliwa on the overnight. 5:41, there is outrage in Brooklyn after a black teenager was targeted in a recent attack at a subway station. The victim's mother over the weekend being joined by supporters, including civil rights activist Kevin McCall, at the Coney Island Stillwell Avenue station, where this is what they're claiming. A gang of Uzbekistan teenagers punched and kicked and threw bananas at a 16-year-old African-American. His name is Dakari White. They yelled racist slurs at him, and his mother speaking out over the weekend.
Let me just make this clear. The police department precinct is in this subway station. That's right. So where were they to provide safety?
A 16-year-old was arrested last week, charged with robbery and assault as a hate crime. But there's others that are still out there, and this family wants to know when they're going to be collected.
Were they worried about fare evasion? Were they worried about trying to maybe to stop somebody from beating the fare? They should be worried about protecting New Yorkers.
5:42 from Brooklyn, we go over to New Jersey, which is known for and proud of a lot of things. One is that it is one of 2 states in the country that still has self-serve gas. You can't pump or doesn't have self-serve gas, right? It's pump your gas from the attendant. Has been people over the years who say enough of this with the attendants pumping the gas. Let's get just self-serve. One of those people pushing for that today is State Senator John Bramnick, who, by the way, is a candidate for governor. He's trying to push through another bill that would make New Jersey a self-serve state instead of one where you sit in car and have someone else pump your gas.
The people against it are really, really upset, but I try to explain. You're going to have a lane to have an attendant pump your gas, okay? So these are the people who want to get in and out, don't mind getting out of their car. So everybody chill a little bit.
Yeah, I don't see anybody begging for this. I don't know. You like me, you live in New Jersey. I kind of like having somebody come up to the car so I don't have to get out, especially when it's cold outside. But his bill would allow self-service pumps, but would require stations with more than 4 pumps to offer full service. Eric Bloomgren, he's the executive director of the New Jersey Gasoline Automotive Association. They have about 2,000 gas stations that are under this association, and he's all for self-serve because obviously that's one employee or 2 employees these gas stations could potentially save on.
I think a lot of small business owners, they'd be able to stay open later. They'd have more pumps open. To make it even faster for everyone to move through the station.
When you talk to drivers in New Jersey, they're kind of split over this. They're probably like me in that they're not used to doing the self-serve. And when you go to another state and you have to self-serve yourself, you're like, oh, this is kind of fun. But when you're doing it every day, you might not feel that way.
I don't know. On one hand, I do because it would be faster.
Yeah.
But on the other, it does make job.
I don't mind pumping gas anywhere, but I feel it's a luxury that we have.
Yeah, I kind of like the fact that I don't have to get out of my car. And I'm not a lazy person. It can't be a whole lot slower than me getting out and pumping the gas myself. So when you talk again to drivers, they're like me in that they don't want to get out of the car when it's cold, but you can't have it both ways. It's either going to be a self-serve state or not a self-serve state.
In the winter, I don't want to get out of my car. I want someone else to pump my gas.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. 544, while we're in New Jersey, the governor's race there has been heating up. Of course, a lot of candidates on the Democratic side, a lot of candidates on the Republican side. Democrat Josh Gottheimer, he was on with Marsha Kramer over the weekend on her show. And he was punching back against this idea of reverse congestion pricing. I think, was it Steve Fulop, the mayor from Jersey City, who suggested doing this as a punishment for the MTA collecting that $9 fare to go in the congestion zone from New Jersey drivers. He would charge New York drivers to come to New Jersey. Well, Congressman Josh Gottheimer says that's a really stupid idea.
So I want you to come to the Garden State and shop in our stores and eat in our restaurant.
Now, I know some Republicans are pushing for that idea, too, a reverse congestion pricing. But he says what he wants to do is just get rid of congestion pricing.
Right? When you to go over into New Jersey and New York, you got to pay a fee. Right? I think it's too much, but you got to pay to go over the bridge and through the tunnels. That is, in my opinion, what that's a toll that people are paying, and that's plenty. And I think it's too much. So the idea that we would charge anyone more and hurt hardworking people who are trying to get to work or going to try to see family is outrageous.
Now, what's interesting is he thinks that congestion pricing in the battle against it, that they'll win, and that $9 toll will go away soon. But it's interesting that he does not mention President Trump when he talks about winning that battle, because he knows if he does, he has to give credit to the president, and that would not sit well with people who might be voting for him.
I mean, it seems like the writing's on the wall that they've got fewer than 30 days left to get rid of this thing. The administration's been pretty clear about that and reinforced what we've said all along. This is nothing but picking the pockets of hardworking people who are trying to get by.
That money to fix a system
then the MTA's
120 years old and falling apart.
Then the MTA should do their job and start collecting fares from people. They lost $700 million last year to fare skippers. Half the people who ride, by their own studies, half the people who ride the buses in New York, don't even pay to ride.
Yeah, but notice, no mention of Sean Duffy, the head of the Department of Transportation, or the White House, who's really been leading this battle to get rid of congestion pricing. 546, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ella.
Thank you, Noam. And we'll start here on the diamond. The Yanks run a rough shot on the Brewers all weekend long. They win yesterday 12-3, completed a 3-game sweep of Milwaukee at home to open up their 2025 season. Marcus Stroman started for the Yanks. He gets a no decision, 4 2/3 inning pitches of work, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, and 3 Ks, and a bunch more dingers yesterday as well for the Yanks. Aaron Judge, a 2-run shot. Jazz Chisholm, he went deep twice, a 2-run shot in the third and a 3-run homer in the seventh, and Ben Rice added a solo shot in the second. Following the 20 spot the Bombers put up on the Brewers on Saturday, the 36 runs New York pushed across over the weekend set a franchise record through the first 3 games of the season. They'll take their 3-0 record into a 3-game set against the visiting Arizona Diamondbacks, set to get underway tomorrow night in the Bronx. As for the Mets, after dropping 2 of 3 against the Astros in Houston to open up their season following an off day yesterday, they'll open a 3-game set tonight in Miami against the Marlins. First pitch is scheduled for 6:40 p.m. with David Peterson slated to start for New York. Elite 8 action in the NCAA.
Wait, so let me ask you something.
Yes.
So the Yankees score how many runs over the weekend?
Are you going to ask me about these stupid torpedo bats?
Yeah, so because a lot of people don't know about this. Yeah. They were brought out, these special bats that I guess are legal, but all of a sudden they're hitting home runs when they're using these bats, right?
Well, they're not all hitting home runs, but yes.
But 36 runs is a lot of runs.
The science behind the bats is that it's the analytics department, obviously, for the Yankees, did research on individuals in the Yankees lineup and where they tend to make contact the most with the ball on the bat. And some of these players have opted to now use a bat that has a barrel that coincides with that area on the bat that they most frequently hit the ball.
Wait, so each batter who is worried about this is coming up with their own bat, or are they all using the same bat?
No. They each have a different bat that is crafted to their personal tendencies. Why not?
I don't know. Like, aren't there rules about bats in the in Major League Baseball?
Well, let me ask you. Like, pitchers, they all don't have to have the same exact windup, right?
No,
like they could throw the ball a little differently. Yeah. They could stand on the rubber any way they want to, just as long as they're touching the rubber. They can dig as deep of a hole in the mound as they want.
I know you're a Yankees fan, but the truth is if they continue to hit like this over the next couple of weeks, there's going to be other teams saying, wait a minute, this is unfair. They're using this specialized bat.
There are other teams that are already doing this. Their bats just haven't come yet.
Huh.
Yeah. No. The Yankees have come out and said, we're not
Amazon's too slow on delivering those bats?
Exactly.
Okay.
Or maybe they're just not, as aggressive in terms of wanting to get an edge as the Yankees. Okay. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of more runs because then it's more fun to watch baseball. But
of course.
Seems like they have a little bit of an unfair advantage right now.
It is within the parameters of the rules,
until they change them.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. This is a lot like the tush-push conversation, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, similar. Yeah.
Yeah. So just like that conversation, I'm going to end this one now.
Good, because there's probably other sports to tell me about, isn't it?
Not really. You got the Elite Eight. Other than that, I mean, all 4 1 seeds made the Final Four, so that's, whether or not you look at that as boring or they picked it right, whatever it is, but you get all 4 1 seeds in the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Final Four action picks up from San Antonio come Saturday night. That is your Sports at Home. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:52. Let's go out to Long Island. Police say an 18-year-old used a lighter to ignite his hat and then a lawn sign and threw the lit items into the woods over the weekend, started what was a small brush fire that could have been really big. People in that Nassau County area were waiting for the fire marshals, the firefighters, to show up.
I come running out, and there was about 20 feet of fire in the brush on the other side of the fence, across the street.
We've seen some bad brush fires in Long Island over the last couple weeks, so the fact that someone's purposely starting is never good. Detectives say a 70-year-old man was in his car. He witnessed the alleged incident of this teenager starting the fire and called the cops and firefighter to come in.
A little scary to see a situation like this in Plainview, where the people coming out and lighting fires.
Yeah, thankfully it did no real destruction to any buildings, but obviously burned through some of the woods. While we're out on Long Island, Long Beach is trying to figure out how to get people to pay the fee to get onto the beach every day. Now, if you live in Long Beach, by the way, you do have to pay some sort of fee for the entire summer to use the beach. Those people who are showing up for a day pass, they have to pay $15. But over the last couple of years, people have figured out a way to get on the beach without using that fee, without paying that fee. And so they're trying to figure out how to get it so will those people coming for the day pass pay the $15?
There's some people that come for the day and, try to game the system, whether that's passing passes back or going very fast and, getting on the beach.
So here's what they're going to do. They've unveiled these wristbands that you have to wear that are waterproof. They're bar-coded so they can be scanned by beach patrols. So they're going to walk around the beach and they're going to scan your bracelet. And if it doesn't show that you paid for the day, they're going to boot you off the beach.
It is a public beach, but we treat it with respect, and we feel that we love when visitors come, but just treat it with respect. That's all we ask.
And I can understand why somebody might want to get around. $15 a person is a lot of people if you're bringing a family. 554 supporters, critics, Elon Musk rallying outside a Mount Kisco Tesla showroom over the weekend. This was part of a larger movement across the nation as people who are upset with Elon Musk are showing up at his Tesla dealerships to show displeasure with the CEO's role in the Trump administration's White House. So there were protesters outside this Mount Kisco Tesla dealership, those for and against. Here are people who think Elon Musk is doing a great job and were defending his dealership from these protesters who are trying to shut it down.
And these people who are attacking Tesla and attacking Elon Musk and SpaceX, they're obstructionists, and they're they're against the most obvious of common sense things like transparency and accountability.
No, the people on the other side would disagree with that.
What we're really protesting is the billionaire takeover of our government, of our democracy. It's just wrong. As you look around here today, these people are not getting paid. They're just giving up their Saturday to protest because we believe in America.
So the upside of this one is it was a peaceful protest. As some of the other ones, people have taken out violence on these Tesla dealerships, setting fires, shooting bullet holes through, damaging vehicles of people who were just parked in a regular parking lot. That didn't happen here, thankfully, up in Westchester. The battle continues on Long Island over whether certain DNA evidence can be used in the case of against Gilgo Beach accused Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Heuermann. He appeared in court on Friday for a pre-trial hearing as he and his wife apparently have reached a divorce settlement. We heard about this for the first time over the weekend.
It was even more concerning that her hair and her daughter's hair were found on some of these victims. So this process is very important to getting closure for her and her family.
Yeah, so we don't know how this argument will end when it comes to the DNA, but that's become a big point in the trial out there on Long Island in Suffolk County. Could it be a dry summer in the city this year?
Outdoor dining is making a comeback with the weather getting warmer, but this summer there are rules to follow if eateries want to avoid any consequences. Out of 3,400 applicants for the Dining Out NYC program, only 7 have had their outdoor liquor license approved. While some restaurants are still serving booze to their customers outside, they risk disciplinary action from the state liquor authority. Restaurants must also get approval from the city's DOT before getting the green light from the state to serve alcohol at their alfresco dining setups. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
And Coney Island's Luna Park officially opened to the public over the weekend. Boy, they had a great first day on Saturday. It was beautiful. Celebrating 98 years of the iconic Cyclone roller coaster. So hundreds of people lined up to be among the first 98 to ride the roller coaster for free. Plus, they get a free egg cream. People getting up in the middle of the night to do this.
Free ride on the Cyclone. And free egg cream.
Yeah.
We're all about it.
Yeah. I think there's something just so exciting to kick off the Coney Island season with a ride on the Cyclone. It's so iconic.
Yeah, I think the individual ride it's more than $10 now, right? I can't remember but it's a lot of money to one ride on the roller coaster.
I left out the house at 9 in the morning from Harlem, New York, and I'm here, excited.
Yeah.
We love Coney. We love its quirkiness. It is an iconic Brooklyn place.
I made 60, and I've been coming here all my life with my entire family. Now I'm solo.
Okay. Remember when they used to have Shoot the Freak on the Coney Island Boardwalk? That was when it was fun. 5:57, traffic transit on the 7s. Here's Joe Nolan.
From the Ray Catino.
Do you remember Shoot the Freak?
I do remember Shoot the Freak. I used to go to Coney Island once in a while, and I do remember that.
Yeah,
that
they took that away. I guess that wasn't family friendly, maybe? Or,
it was a little inappropriate, but it was funny, though.
It really was.
From the RayCatino.com traffic desk, did you travel out on the north?
No, it was some guy from Michigan. Did you know that?
No,
it was
I didn't
the same
know
guy
that.
who always did it, and they paid him all kinds of money to have these pellets shot at him that hurt. And he would run. There was things you could hide behind, and you'd wait, and he would tease you as you had the gun. Like,
that was the best part of it. Oh, yeah. That was definitely the best part of it, the guy screaming at you. That was funny.
Yeah, it really was. And people lined up, man. There would be like 50 people in line waiting to shoot this
Absolutely.
guy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.